So every week on Monday, I highlight the major events and maybe a story that you missed over the course of the week. The major story on Monday last week was that Mongolia made an awkward move to troll Putin for his history part of the Carlson interview. And what they did was they showed, okay, well, if you want to talk about your historic Russian lands, here's what historic Mongolian Empire lands look like, and it subsumes most of what is now Russia. That was the major story, and that's a follow-up from the Tucker interview earlier in the week. The stories that you might have missed were things like Ukrainians' Pokrova spoofing systems, which tells Shaheeds how to get lost. Like, it's electronic warfare that kind of confounds them and makes them think they're going somewhere that they're not actually going. And then there's also a second minor story that was really important, and that is that the Germans being polled found that Russia was no longer perceived as the top threat. There are other things that Germans rated even higher, including immigration. So you want to keep your eye on that, and Putin, I'm sure, would be very happy to hear that that was the case. Okay, the top story on Tuesday, the 13th, was that the Senate approved a $95 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. Okay, we know that. And they're still talking about that, trying to get that forward, trying to get it approved, that kind of thing. The story you might have missed was that Russia is refitting old tanks after losing 3,000 tanks in Ukraine. And they've passed that number, but wow, 3,000. So they're refitting really, really old tanks that I just trying to get something out to the front line. Wednesday, 14 February. So the AFU General Staff confirmed the destruction on Wednesday of the Russian landing ship, the Caesar Kunikov. Now, that was the big story for today. The minor story was that, and this was not the first one, there were a few of these, GOP senator says Putin is on top of his game while saying the U.S. forced Russia into the war, and he was just repeating Putin's talking points from the Tucker interview. Thursday, 15 February, Ukraine says that it's withdrawing some troops in Avdiivka. And you've been hearing little rumblings about this, but by Thursday, it was really starting to get serious. And by Friday, it was really serious, and they were in full retreat mode. By Saturday, they were pretty much out. So they were withdrawing troops from Avdiivka to more secure positions. The story that you might not have heard was that David Cameron responds. David Cameron was the former British Prime Minister. He's now a foreign minister. He's Lord Cameron in the House of Lords now, responding to Trump ally Marjorie Taylor Greene, who tells him to kiss her butt. And yeah, the fascinating thing about this is how conservatives and other conservative looking like kind of people are really at odds with each other. Cameron's a British conservative. All other things being equal, they generally get along pretty well with American Republicans, but not with what's going on with the Trump takeover of the Republican Party. And there are some of us that are fighting back, trying to take it back, but wow, yeah, that's that's just remarkable. Friday, 16 February, the big story was that Ukraine says forces are withdrawing from Avdiivka. As we were talking about, we're in active withdrawal at this point. But the story that you might have missed, and this is really, really important, on this day was that Ukraine was signing a security pact with both Germany and France. These were bilateral pacts, just like the one that they signed with Great Britain for 10 years, and so much training and monetary support, things along those lines. And there are more to come. Denmark and the Netherlands are in the queue about to sign a pact. Saturday, 17 February, Biden blames congressional inaction for Ukraine's withdrawal in Avdiivka, and of course it's easy to do that. Republicans are really to blame. Let's just be frank about this. Republicans were trying to use Ukraine as leverage in order to get what they wanted for border security. So shame on them. But that's what was happening. Now, at the same time, there was a court judgment against Trump for what appears to be some as, haha, see, he did it, and appears to others to be, hey, they're just going after Trump because he's Trump. Where's the actual crime? And as a consequence, Trump supporters launched a fundraiser to pay for his fraud damages. And we'll keep an eye on how much the GoFundMe campaign actually moves for a billionaire. It just doesn't make sense. And then Sunday, 18 February, Ukraine's forces report a Russian retreat on the Zaporizhzhia front. After they've broken through and kind of taken Avdiivka, they got pushed back in Zaporizhzhia. The story you might not have heard was that not just McCall, Republican, who is very pro-Ukraine, but even Biden is saying that he's confident that that $60 billion Ukraine war aid package will come to a vote and will pass. All right. That's the news for the last week. That gives you a good recap of what's happened. Thank you for listening to this. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and the coffees. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.